there, guys and gals, all you hip cats, cool kittens, you diesel-powered disciples of cool friends and foes. Welcome to another live episode of the Dieselpunk podcast, and we are coming to you live through the magic of the internet, which means it comes with all of its wonders and woes at the same time. So my words are not matching up to my picture, which I see they're already not. You'll just excuse that and listen to the audio. I am your host, comic book loving, time traveling prophet of pop culture of Dieselpunk, the known as Big Daddy Cool, and of course, with me is the chairman of the board, all the way from Dallas, Fort Worth, Texas, boss Larry Amiet. How are you, Larry?
Oh, doing good, Johnny. Hi, everybody. Good to be here.
Uh-oh. Larry?
Can you hear me?
I hear you fine, Larry.
Johnny,
I think we've got some lag, but that's okay. We will deal with it. Yeah, we can hear you wonderful. Also joining us, two very special guests. I'm so excited to have them with us. Of course, Tony, this is, I guess, your third appearance on the podcast with us.
Yes.
Tony Snipes, the creator of the coolest project on the internet, the Portsmouth Aeroship Building Company.
Yeah.
And he's representing with a T-shirt. Show us the T-shirt.
There's the shirt, gang.
All right.
Cool.
Yay! And, of course, on the other corner, author extraordinaire, the author of the Troubleshooter series, Bard Constantine. And it's been a long time, Bard. You were on the show when we were just doing audio in the first season. That's been 8 years ago. Can you believe that?
Yeah. Time flies. Definitely.
And if I remember correctly, at the time, and Larry, you can correct me, your first Troubleshooter book had just released.
Yeah, and it's funny. I've probably re-edited that one about twice now. So it's actually if you haven't picked it up, then you'll be all caught up. If you've read it before, like way back in those days, then there's a kind of George Lucas a few parts on there.
Now, Bard, how many books are in the series now?
There's the collection of 4 short stories, which now basically counts as the first installment, and then there's the original debut novel, which was the one that we talked about last time. That's now counted as number 2. There's the sequel to that one. There's a sequel to that one called The Most Dangerous Dame. And I'm actually currently writing the conclusion to what I call the New Haven saga, which basically wraps up all the story points up to now. And it's kind of expanding the Troubleshooter into the larger Haven World universe that I've built. So once this ends, we're basically going to get him out of that singular New Haven environment and actually enter it into the whole Haven world, which I've been working on with other novels. Wow. So kind of, if you think of it,
that's
like,
very cool.
Yeah, if you think of it as like the MCU, his novels are kind of like the Iron Man stuff, So his arcs basically concluded, but he's going to be popping up in other people's stories and stuff. So
wow,
that's how I think of it.
That sounds great.
I might need to talk to you about a project that I'm working on.
Okay.
The Decoverse.
Yeah.
Maybe the Troubleshooter could make an appearance in my universe. That would be a lot of fun.
That'd be great.
So all of those of you who are watching live, we're using StreamYard, which means that we don't see who you are until you post a comment. So we want you to post comments, introduce yourself, let us know that you're watching. That way we can respond to you at the appropriate times. This is interactive between us and you, the audience. And we've got kind of a heavy topic tonight. And before we do that, we've got a comment. So Ken Pellman has just posted a comment that says, where is it? He said, Bard's got some really great work out there. There it comes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Ken giving you the props.
Nice. Yeah. Ken's, I've actually worked with him and some other writers on a project called the Prometheus Experiment, and he's one of the writers there. He's an award-winning writer from Florida, and I've had the privilege of working with him and some other writers on a joint effort on some other stuff. So, yeah, appreciate it, Ken.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Very, very, very cool. And before we leave tonight, we'll talk more about your projects and people can and buy your work, and that's for both hard, and we are getting some lag with the comment. He's got some really interesting universe constructed, and we've got Joe McKeel joining us. Seen that podcast? You need to check that out. He just says, "Howdy, y'all."
Howdy, Joe.
And those comments are not wanting to go away, but maybe they will. All right, so we are going to talk about. Okay, they're just going to fade in and out slowly, apparently. We're going to talk about some heavy stuff tonight, but before we do that, I want to share some lighthearted stuff. And Larry, you just typed that out. You're getting a lot of audio breakup on me.
It's gotten better, but it got real bad for a while there where didn't have movement. Now you're a little more in sync. It's kind of like it got back in sync. It's weird. Who knows?
I don't know. We'll deal with it.
Gremlins from the Kremlin.
Yeah. And, I think part of the reason I'm a Dieselpunk is because I actually hate modern technology. So I was really disappointed, though, as awesome as it is for Bard and Tony to be here. I was hoping that we could get one other guest on, Tony, our mutual friend, Sanford Green, who I've never met. But I've been such a huge fan of his work for so long. And you're doing an event with him next week, right?
Yes,
this weekend.
Yes, this coming weekend, this Saturday, 11 a.m. Eastern time.
Talk about that for just a minute.
Yeah, well, I've had the opportunity of knowing Sanford now for a little more than about 4 years. Actually met him at a con down here in the South. And the guy is really down to earth, and it was great to realize that he actually lives in South Carolina. But we've done a webinar a few years ago, but especially when he launched Bitter Root. And then I started doing the work on Portsmouth Aeroship, and us seeing each other at cons and everything. I said, man, one of the things I want to do is I'd like to just do a call with you, especially with the Zoom calls and everything that's been going on here lately during the pandemic. I said it would be cool if we had an opportunity to have him on. So that's what's taking place this coming Saturday. Going to be revealing one of my art pieces, but the nugget that's going to be a part of that whole experience is going to be the interview and the Zoom call with Sanford.
Great. That sounds fantastic.
And for those of you who don't know, Sanford Green. Yeah, it does sound fantastic. And for those of you who don't know, Sanford Green is the artist on a comic book series that is maybe one of the most Dieselpunk comic book series out there. A series called Bitter Root. And it's a story about the Sangiri family. Am I pronouncing that right, Tony?
I think so. That's close. Yeah.
Sangiri family. Yeah. And they are a family of monster hunters that live in Harlem, set during 1929. Mm-hmm. And it's phenomenal. And I've been a fan of Sanford Green's art for a long, long time because it's so distinct. He's one of those artists that as soon as you see that artwork, You know it's him.
It's like, hey,
and
that's
I
Sanford's
love
work.
that. Yeah, I love that. And if you guys aren't reading Bitter Root, it's on, I want to say, issue 8 of volume 2. Just came out last week.
Mm-hmm.
And now, do you know, Tony, there was a variant cover that came out on it that is an homage to Prince's Purple Rain album cover.
Yes.
Was that Sanford's art?
Yes, I believe it was Sanford's. They did about 3, if not 4, that were nods to a lot of different movies, especially a couple movies that were done by Spike Lee and things like that. So I think he did about maybe 3 or 4 covers like that.
Okay. Yeah, I got the one that was a Purple Rain homage just so that I can frame it. It's so cool. Prince was one of my heroes, and just to have Dieselpunk and Prince mashed up
all in one place.
Actually, I think Prince may have been a secret punk. I'm sure Michael Jackson's like full on Diesel, but I think Prince might have been a secret one.
I can see that.
Anyway, Bitterroot, check it out. Also, another great comic series that I wanted to talk about real quick was Venture Man. It came out this week, and it's by Matt Fraction, Harry Dodson. I did a full review on it last week on the podcast because I couldn't be together with everybody. Go watch that review and go check out Adventure Man. Very, very cool. Now, I want to talk about a game that is an app on your phone, and it's called Kiss of War. And Larry, if you can hear, we'll wait for Larry.
I'm sitting here. I heard you say, Larry, if you can hear me.
Yes.
And that was the last thing I heard.
Okay, so Larry, have you seen the ads for this app, Kiss of War?
No, I have not.
Sanford, or Bard, or Tony, have either of you seen it?
I don't think I have.
Are those the ones with the it's nothing but advertisements featuring hot women shooting Nazis? Is that the one?
Yes, it is.
I have seen that. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna bring it up on my phone because I went ahead and downloaded it. It was free. Let's see if you can see this image that pops up.
Yeah.
It is. Look, it is true Dieselpunk. All of the characters look like that. It is made by a Ukrainian developer.
Oh,
and
okay.
The Ukrainians do Dieselpunk better than anybody. But the entire point of this game is to collect hot women in punk attire.
Right.
Yeah.
At least the ad didn't lie then. At least the ad didn't lie.
Well, we know
it did not lie. But you literally you literally are fighting to take possession of these women who join your team. It's very cool visually, but it is so not right. It is so wrong from a sexist perspective. And, I guess in Europe, in the Ukraine, they probably have different ideas of what's acceptable and what's not.
Oh, no. Obviously, the Me Too movement's never made it over there. So
yeah.
Johnny would leave you unsupervised for 5 minutes and you're downloading everything.
Yeah, who knows what else came with that app? You better check your phone.
Look, it's
Johnny.
It's a great looking game. It really is really good looking. not just the women are good looking, just the terrain, the buildings, the mechanics, everything is really good looking, but it's got a terrible misogynist plot. Hey, we got a comment here from James Hauser who says, "Hello, Bard."
Oh, hey, all right, Mr. Hauser, how's it going? Glad to see you.
Yeah, Thank you for joining us, James. So I want to get to the serious topic now, and this is why I asked Tony and Bard to be on. And I'm going to get a little bit serious for a moment, and we're going to have a discussion. And I want to frame this in the right way. I've never understood racism. And what I mean by that is I don't get how people have fear or hatred towards other people who don't have the same skin color. I've never understood it. I've never gotten it. I'm one of those, and I compare it to like a box of Crayola crayons, right? If the only colors in your box of 8 are all the same, it's a useless box of crayons, right?
Right.
I don't want just the 8-pack. I want the 120 variety pack.
Right.
Because I think that, God loves variety, and God created wonderful colors for us to appreciate. And I don't consider myself colorblind. I consider myself color blessed. I love the variety, and I've never understood why other people don't. So that's where I'm coming from. And so it's been hard for me, coming from that mindset, to process what we've been going through lately. And I follow people online that I agree with as a conservative, like Candace Owens and James Harris and the Hodge twins. And I love watching them and hearing them talk about, their experiences and how they want to raise everyone up. And I love them. And I was posting a lot of their videos, because they were saying things that I inherently believe and know to be true. And, it was my way of supporting them as media personalities that I agree with and that I love. And then I created a meme because, this whole color blessed concept, and I was thinking about Dieselpunk in particular, and how Dieselpunk is this really big umbrella of style and aesthetic and, all different kinds of things from the different eras. And in my attempt to create a meme that was non-political and was intended to be inclusive of everybody, I got a lot of hate. I posted a meme that said, Dieselpunk has no color, Dieselpunk has no age, Dieselpunk has no gender, Dieselpunk has no body type, Dieselpunk has no political affiliation, Dieselpunk has no religious affiliation, and if you think think it does, you're doing it wrong. And Larry, you lauded that. You posted a GIF on my response of that little baby going, yes! And I posted that on a Dieselpunk forum. The forum that is just labeled Dieselpunk, not the plural Dieselpunks that we operate. Right. And I got to tell you guys, I was wounded. I was blown away by the responses I got from people who, were calling me a left-wing Marxist, saying, oh, you just posted that to support Black Lives Matter. Okay, what if I did? What's the problem with that?
Right.
And then, but this is what struck me. This is what shook me. Okay. Those same people who were being so overtly racist, I mean, they were just putting it out there, started posting the same videos from people like Candace Owens and James Harris and the Hodge twins that I had posted on my own profile. But they were posting them towards me saying, yeah, but what about this? What about these facts? And I was confronted and I was shook. I was like, oh my God, this is what people think I'm doing when I post these on my profile. They think that I am justifying racism with facts and statistics, and that's the furthest thing from the truth. And so, because it read to me like these racists were doing that. And so I went back and I deleted all of that stuff off my profile because I don't want to give that appearance. I don't want that to be what people think. And so it shook me because I realized, and I realized that people don't believe the way that I do, but more importantly, that our genre of diesel punk is still filled with racism. And that really hurts me, guys. I really thought we were, better than that. I thought 8 years ago, Larry, when we had talked about how there's no room in diesel punk for Nazi fetishes, and when we talked about, our response to white supremacy a couple of years ago, I really thought that we as a genre and a community were past this. But my eyes were really awakened and it shook me. And I realized that there's really, I think, 3 kinds of racism, and I'll let you guys talk after I finish. The racism of hatred and fear, the racism of low expectations, or what I call pity, and then the racism of no empathy. And that's kind of where I was coming from. I was like, well, racism can exist because what about this? And when I was thrown back at me, I realized how wrong I kind of was, how wrong I was. And that's kind of where I come to this program tonight and, ask you guys, you, Bard and Tony, where are we? What do we do? How do we fix this? Not just in our community, because it exists in all fandoms I've discovered, but how do we fix this and move past this? Because I hate where we are right now.
What was that last thing that you said?
Yeah, I kind of lost you on the last
part.
I hate where we are right now.
Okay.
All right. Well, that's.
I said I hate where we are right now.
Yeah. Yep.
How do we move past it?
I would say that's a very broad question for simply because of the fact that, like you said earlier, it's something that permeates, fandom everywhere. Whether it's racial, political, whatever, it's like instantly the moment somebody raises one thing, then it becomes an instant split. You could look at, like growing up, I've been a Star Wars fan, like all my life. And then with the new movies, you just never thought that it would become so divisive as it's become. I mean, really just rancid, hate-filled messages being flown back and forth over something that, was originally created to bring people together. You know, I mean, that's what fandom is. Fandom is bringing people together of all walks. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's what brings you together is your love of, you know, whatever it is that you're a fan of. You know, that's what brings you together. That's what gives you a connection with somebody that's in Nebraska, you know, or in China, you know, or wherever somebody's at, you know. Now you got something in common with this person. You both love a certain thing, and it's great. It's cool, or at least that's how it's supposed
to be.
Yeah, you know. So, but unfortunately, the fact of the matter is that you know, there's gonna be trolling. Trolling is everywhere, you know. But even worse than that, are just, you know, hardcore, you know, racist people, you know, who bring in their beliefs or their prejudices, you know, into their fandom, you know. And you know, I don't know what exactly could be done other than you know, just moderation, you know, as far as whatever the fandom avenue is. You know, I mean, it really takes moderators that care, you know, and then you got to have people that, you know, have the time to be able to moderate these forums or chat rooms or just whatever it is, the podcast or just, you know, just whatever it is that's carrying the message. You know, if it's not moderated by people that have the time and the ability to you know, check into these things, then, you know, you allow this to kind of flourish.
Yeah, I agree. And especially these past few weeks, the thing that I've seen that has hurt me the most, and the flip side had encouraged me the most, is the thing that I saw that kind of hurt the most was the lack of empathy. And I was seeing it from people that really, from me knowing a few of them, I worked with them. I've actually gone to church with some of them, and I, you know, interact with them in one space where we, you know, we link arms on the thing that we have in common. But then these individual issues that tie to race came up, and what hurt me was, I think the challenge of us having these platforms where we can get right in front of a computer, cell phone, especially cell phone now, and we can post something and it goes out to the entire world. And people not pausing, even though you've got a mic and you can get on the mic and say anything and the world hears it and the world replicates it over and over and over again. Some of the people that I thought were, you know, were thinking differently. They had their take on the whole Aunt Jemima thing, and they were posting some things that I saw as hurtful as far as just that stereotype. And they were posting it and sharing what they thought and how they felt that I shouldn't feel a certain way. And I got to a point where I just casually asked one of them, "Hey, before you posted what your thoughts are on that, did you ask any of your African American friends how they felt about it before you shared with the entire world how you felt about it?" And that person honestly said, "I didn't." And the flip side of that is what encouraged me the most these past couple weeks is it doing exactly what you're doing tonight, Johnny, is saying, you know what, let me get some folks together and let me ask them what they think and what they feel. Listening more so than taking a mic and speaking about something that you have little or no experience within, is the thing that I saw that had been harmful if they didn't do it, but helpful if they did do it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. It does. Larry, what are your thoughts? What are your questions for Bard and Tony?
Well, I think some of what we're seeing in Dieselpunk is indicative of a larger problem. I mean, Dieselpunk doesn't exist in a vacuum. Okay, racism is found in all aspects of American society. My opinion, and I've seen others say the same thing, goes all the way back. Before its founding, racism was built into. So we're struggling against that now. I guess Tony made a comment, something about listening more. I'm bad about giving my opinion up front. Said, hey, here's my thoughts. Right? You know that. You're laughing.
No
you know
kidding.
I'm right. You know that. You know that.
You're joking, Larry.
Right. And that's something I need to step back and listen. And we know listening is listening, not just hearing the words, right? And sometimes hearing uncomfortable truths. On questions to ask, these two gentlemen, I'm not quite sure I feel, or if there is a path right now forwards for us. Is there anything you think we need to be exploring? I think Johnny's made a good step here.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I echo everybody here that Johnny made a good step. And listening, as I just said, is important, but I think it seemed like there has to be some type of action.
I saw Johnny's heart because I saw the post. I saw the meme when you originally posted the meme, and I started reading the meme. And first of all, me knowing you and really just taking in what the words were, I got where you were going with that.
Mm-hmm.
I did see like a couple things I did kind of question, and not question in a bad way, but I've learned over the years that instead of living in a colorblind world, like you mentioned earlier about loving the flavor that different colors bring, and that's kind of been my piece that I try to bring to the Dieselpunk table, where yes, here's my little slice of this world that I enjoy, and hey, by the way, let me share some images of some people that maybe we have not all seen in historic photos and add that extra slice. And I've been doing it now for going on about 3 years, and I was pleasantly surprised to see that where I have a majority non-minority audience, that at least what I've seen on the surface, most of the folks that have been taking in my content have enjoyed the flavor that's been in there. I try to give more of a spotlight to African Americans from World War II and women from that era. And so far, that's been well received. And honestly, I haven't seen, any hiccups that I kind of was like prepared for. And I think if we continue to go down that type of road and just look at the things that we have in common, and that's actually, see the things that, again, like seasoning, just kind of make it even that much more flavorful. Just keep going down that road. But I like the fact that you did try to take some type of action where you said, you know what, for the record, let me just say why we enjoy what we enjoy with all this other craziness that's going on. I love that. But I think the best thing that you've done is what you're doing tonight. Let's listen, let's hear, and let's see what's going on.
Yep. Yeah. I definitely second what Tony just said.
Yeah. That.
Boyd, you were saying something.
Yeah. Hold on. Yeah. We got our wires crossed for a second, but yeah, I was saying is that I second what Tony just said.
Go ahead, Bard.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Because the fact that there's opportunity, for artists, whether you're a writer, whether you're a video game creator, whether you're um, or just art period, that you're bringing to the table to just have that offering as a representation of yourself, and just spread the love in that way. It's really so much less complicated than what people make it. I think that people tend to overcomplicate things because of whether it's outrage culture, whether it's must get my point across type of situations, which seems to flare up so much. But it's so uncomplicated that it's almost funny sometimes. It's like let's just ease back and enjoy the things that we actually have in common. While at the same time not allowing room for bigotry. I think that everybody that's involved in fandom should have that zero tolerance for bigotry, and not allow that to take over your fandom. Whether it's Dieselpunk, whether it's sci-fi, whether it's just whatever it is that you're into. Don't let that divide your fandom. Because you see these things, people jumping on sides, and just becoming viciously divided. When it's just not really necessary. It's not necessary at all. And like I said, people. I think that it kind of unfortunately falls back on moderators, people that run the forums. It's unfair a lot of times because it's so hard to keep track of these things. Most people are doing this in their spare time. You can't expect them to invest everything into trying to weed the stuff out. But I just think that everybody as part of the community can step up also, and have that zero tolerance for bigotry, and just let the love of the fandom be the main thing.
This whole thing reminds me of go ahead,
and here's what I'm going to talk about. Well, okay, so here's something. I'm not going to put this comment on the screen.
Thank you.
Because we've got a guy, David Gessel, who just said something horrendously racist. David, there's no place for that in this discussion. Mm-mm. I'm so frustrated right now. I don't get it. I really, really don't get it, guys. I really don't. Go ahead, Tony. I'm sorry.
Two things that I've seen, when you're dealing with people, and one thing that was interesting, New Year's Eve last year, I was at, you see different celebrations, and everybody was talking about 2020 is the year of vision, the year that we're going to see. And I'd say that this has been a year that we have seen a lot of things that, people didn't expect it to see it this way, but whatever has been in that human heart of a person, we've seen it. And instances like we've been seeing that's been going on in the world around us have put the spotlight on folks that has already had that within their heart, and they let it out. Now, again, I've experienced and seen, at least from a distance, the people that just are mean. And then I've seen the folks that just had a lack of understanding and a lack of self-control to speak before they tried to get some information. And that's where, Johnny, I wouldn't get frustrated when you see just mean folks just saying what they're going to say, because they just tell the truth of who they are. But the folks that maybe have a lack of understanding, what that reminds me of, and even for myself, I believe anybody that has been married or is married, if you know that you are in a relationship with someone that comes from a different world than yourself, and now you are working together, living together, you have to have a lifestyle of pausing before you say the first thing that comes to mind, and also trying to get a better understanding of, well, now, what is their experience and why are they feeling the way that they're feeling? And before I just say the first thing that comes out of my mouth, why don't I try to have a discussion to find out, well, I'm not going to say you shouldn't feel the way that you feel. I think, can you tell me why you feel that way? And us married folks, we do that every day. Now, we as a nation have these different cultures that have been married together. And if all of us have that same type of practice, I believe one of the reasons why God has created marriage is for us to have that running example day by day, because we've got to practice it, especially in a season like this.
Yeah, and David Gessel has just been banned from our page, just by the way. I hope you guys didn't see what he posted. It was completely inappropriate. But, I appreciate your spirit, Tony. I really do. And, it really did smack me in the face that, although I think I understand the facts in America, it really came... It really hit home that I really don't understand the experience that my brothers and sisters, grew up experiencing. Just because something is factually true doesn't mean that it lines up with experience. And it does, and that's the place I had to get past, right? And like you said, Tony, I had to get to the place where I had to realize I was showing a lack of empathy, even though I love you, man. You're my, and that's how I feel. But I had to get to a point where I realized that I needed to listen more. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yes,
definitely.
It does.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I think the issue of listening.
We've got delays
exactly,
again. That's okay.
Yeah. Is exact. I mean, Tony brought it up, and I think that I think that's where America is right now. Is listening, and like I said, really listening, not just hearing the words. But he who has ears hear. So there's really listening.
I've had to personally apply a lot of self-control of not posting what I thought I should post, and not, especially in responses, and not anything that I would consider mean-spirited, but just to kind of jump in and engage. But I really had to. There's been a lot of self-restraint, because I was thinking, am I adding more fuel to this? Is this actually going to be part of the solution? And those one or two instances where I did believe that, what, let me just share this and share it. And it had been after maybe 2 or 3 days of thinking some stuff through before I actually shared anything. And, all of us, we're communicators. And it's hard when we've got something right here that all we have to do is just go. And for us to say, nope. And I had to set that thing down, but that was the right thing to do. And it goes against our nature, but that's where we have to go above what feels the natural thing to do. And it's hard, but you got to do it if you want change.
Right. Yeah. And that's something that I think a lot of people have to think about, is that, we get passionate about something, and the first thing that you want to do is shout it out at the top of your lungs. You're offended, or you're enraged, or you don't understand why this is such a big deal. No matter what it is, it's just a culture to just let that go. Just let that fly. And the thing about that is that those things are forever. I mean, in the digital age, those things are forever. So you can't unsay something that you said. Because one screenshot and then boom, it's out there. And I've been in the same situation as you, Tony, where you want to, I've wanted to make a statement here and there, then thought about it, because it's like, is this going to be something that's going to just flare out of control? I mean, are these the right words for what I want to express? Situations like that. But it kind of goes to what you were saying a little while ago about empathy. The whole thing about like from a writer's point of view, you spend a lot of time putting yourself in other people's shoes, because you're writing from the perspective of other people, but the thing about empathy is that, you have to realize is that, when you get stopped by a policeman, your experience might not be the same way, or, feeling the same things as if I get stopped by a policeman, I mean, a lot of people don't realize is that I told someone that it's like, I grew up in California, and every single time that there was an earthquake, the first thing that goes through your mind is, so is this the big one?
Big one.
It never is. I mean, it never was, I mean, but, as soon as you feel those tremors, because that's all they talk about is, this could be the big one, that one that breaks everything, that shatters buildings and all that, well, that's what getting pulled over as a black man in America is. Even though you don't expect something to go completely out of place, when that happens and those lights are on you, you can't help but think, is this the one? Is this that one police officer? Is this that one guy, that's gonna turn the situation into something ugly and violent? Like, it's never happened to me, but I've been pulled over, a number of times, and that's gonna be that thought though. So, unless you're able to empathize, you might not ever realize that. The fact of the matter that some person's experience is going to be completely different from yours because of circumstances being the way they are, and I mean, if more people, empathized with situations, then you would avoid some of these misunderstandings, I think.
I've had to share with folks that that conversation is taking. Oh, go ahead, Johnny.
No, go.
I've had to share with folks that, that conversation, Bart, as you were mentioning, now that I've got daughters that drive, and I had to have the talk with them to let them know, if you get pulled over, and even if you are in the right, then you comply, and we will deal with the justice of it afterwards, after you're safe and sound at home. And I had to emphasize that, and just having that stark fear that hopefully that they will comply with that, because yes, I can control myself, but now that everybody that's on this, that's listening to this, probably that has adult driving kids, has that fear of, you want to make sure that they are driving safely. But then there's some of us that have that added level of, now if they get pulled over, what is going to happen, and are they prepared for that, and are they going to come home even if they did not have an accident? And that is part of the experience. And I have, again, at least once or twice these past couple of weeks, I've had some folks that actually have come to me and said, share with me, is all this that I'm hearing about police pulling folks over and you having a fear of that, is that really your reality? And I had to share with them part of my world that they had no clue. But I really appreciate that they took the time, close the door, and say, Tony, fill me in.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And that's where I was, Tony. That's where I was. I heard someone express that, if me as a white guy, if I get pulled over by a cop, it might be unpleasant, but I heard a black man say, but if I get pulled over by a cop, it'll be the day that I don't come home. And I had never heard it put that way before. And it such an eye-opening thing. And then did you guys hear or see my video, what happened yesterday? I was driving home from Father's Day, and a young black deer had been pulled over outside my neighborhood by seven police cars.
I saw
7. And I started filming because, I heard those words in my mind, and I was like, that is an excessive use of force. 7 guys. And I was just like, at that moment, I was hearing your words, Tony, that one of those guys may just be the one, and I was just thinking, man, how tone deaf is this police department? Have they not been paying attention? Have they not been listening over the last 3 weeks? And it enraged me. It made my blood boil. And, thankfully I filmed until that kid got to where he needed to be safely. But golly, it amazed me that people still are not hearing and seeing and understanding what's going on. That there's still this lack of empathy. And that's kind of be my mantra, from going forward is, look, listen, hear, feel, understand.
I love the fact that, and I'm gonna hush after this because I've been talking a lot. But one of the things, just to kind of seal this up, at least for me, is when all of this craziness goes on, and when we're seeing it over and over in the news, and just the discussions that we're having even offline, I think the role of the groups that we're part of, and these genres that we love, and all of this is an escape from all of this. Because I'll watch the news and I'll catch up and see what's going on, but then I've got to, I don't want to hear anything else about this right now. Let me go into my safe place where everything that we're talking about is flying tanks and ships and that are flying out and stuff that's taking place in the past, but it's not supposed. Let's enjoy that and shut out all of that other confusion. We'll come back to that because it'll be there. But at least you folks that are the ones that are moderating all of this and keeping that safe place, it actually is for a reason and on purpose, because we all have to have that escapism. And if we all, from no matter where we come from, the backgrounds, if we feel like that we can come together and, discuss all this stuff in a positive way, it's the escape from all the craziness.
Yes, absolutely. And I have a question for both Bard and Tony, and Larry, you can pipe in if you'd like. One of the things that has been presented to me is a, as you called it, Larry, a whataboutism. Someone in defense of their racism in a Dieselpunk forum said, well, you guys are celebrating an era in history that had segregation and Jim Crow laws. And what about that? Huh? And, my take has always been that we don't, as Dieselpunks, ignore that history. We don't maybe gloss over it. We try to create a history where maybe it didn't exist in my world, in the Decoverse, that stuff never happened. But what's your response to those people who say, oh, you guys are in this genre that, glamorizes Nazis, had Jim Crow, and had segregation? How do you respond to those people in terms of how informs your creative work or your love for this era and genre?
I'd say that you can take any time in history, no matter how far you go back and no matter how far you come up, and find terrible things that exist in any part of history. So I don't think that to be a fandom of a certain period of time glosses over any of the wrong things that were happening in there. I mean, it's your role as a creator to explore whatever elements that you want, and whether it's to bring enlightenment to certain injustices, or whether it's just to tell a rip-roaring adventure, Indiana Jones style tale, if that's what you want to do. I don't. The whole thing about criticizing artists for either focusing or not focusing on certain things, to me, is kind of pointless. Because if somebody wants to explore a certain period of time and tell a good yarn, tell a good story. To me, it's all about the story. It's all about what you're trying to focus on, and somebody else might explore that same exact era of time and then focus on something that's completely away from that. Someone might be exploring, the racial elements of that time period, and that's fantastic. Also, the thing about it is that you can have the best of both worlds, without having to quibble about the different things. I see a comment here from Ken Pelham.
Oh, that's
I've been hearing more about Afrofuturism as an artistic movement. Is that a direction that you're thinking of? Definitely. That's becoming another growing genre that that's been expanding pretty rapidly, that I've noticed anyway, like in probably about the last 5-6 years, and the thing about it is that for myself, I kind of blend genres anyway, like the troubleshooter. It's dieselpunk, it's sci-fi, it's cyberpunk, it's a lot of different things, and it brings a lot of different elements into creating the world. So, I don't think that I'll ever try to create something that's specifically for one genre, but I definitely love to include and kind of remix certain elements, and create a blend, kind of a cocktail of different genres, because I just love that aspect of world building, and shout out to all the artists that I see on ArtStation and DeviantArt, and so many other places where they're just and Tony also, that's just building these great visual worlds. I mean, it's just it brings so much inspiration to me. I can sketch out a little drawing on on a scrap of paper or whatever, but as far as being able to create these visual images, man, I mean it's really amazing. It's really inspirational. And it's just like lightning to me. I see these images, I'm like, oh man, that's amazing. And it really helps me to I've got the Pinterest page where I basically set up mood boards, and just kind of use those to kind of just create that mindset of inspiration. Visual images just do that. And I really appreciate all the artists that have contributed to the movement, to the world building. It's just amazing.
Johnny, I was going to say, I think you're a fan of the show. It's not on anymore, but Timeless. You remember that show? And that was a show that
love Timeless.
And of the three main characters, one was African American, and these were time travelers. And truly, they if they go back in time, it's not necessarily going to be the same experience for the African American guy. And he mentions that. And so that was the interesting thing about that show, that they didn't act like it wasn't going to happen, and he didn't stay at the time machine and kept the engine running until the white folks came back. But they actually wove that, I think, in a well done way within their stories. And it was interesting to see how they were going to navigate through that. And I think they really did it well. And it's not. I don't think it would be an easy feat for a storyteller that's going to do that. So, but seeing examples like that where it was, and you've got one of your main characters that's going back to that era, and it's like, oh, well, how's he going to address it? And he actually says something about it. And I thought that was really well done.
Yeah, that's a very good example.
Larry, do you have any thoughts on that?
Oh, yeah. Well, when we talk about it's so out of sync. Okay. If I want to just kind of, get away from the news, I might watch, Indiana Jones, or maybe really optimistic Dieselpunk, Sky Captain. Which I always kind of call the Star Trek of Dieselpunk, because it's so optimistic and bubbly and happy. But then there's the where they explicitly address race, like "Oh brother, where art thou?" Where it's explicitly addressed, done in a sense of humor, but they definitely address it head on. And then most recently, from the Hispanic experience, City of Angels.
Yes.
Which is all about the Hispanic experience in LA.
What a great show.
So it's extraordinary. And at times hard to watch. But so, yeah, I think there's a need for both. There's a need. Dieselpunk, you said it really well, Johnny. It doesn't flinch from the past. Okay. If anything, it faces it head on with programs like this that I mentioned. The two. Just to mention two. And you mentioned, Tony, Timeless. But at the same time, it acknowledges and says, there's a time to, exhale and relax. So, in answer to people, how can you? Bard said it correctly. You're going to find racism not just in that era, 50s, the 60s, race all the way up to today. Okay, so it's not unique to that era. Yeah, there was atrocious, horrible racism. But no, Johnny, your mouth is just going.
Yeah, I see him over there.
I had you on mute. I had my mic muted. I didn't know it.
Oh, okay.
Your mouth is just.
It's okay. I was agreeing with you, Larry.
Okay.
Well, guys, we're hitting an hour here. I like to keep this about an hour for each show. So I really, 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 I can't tell you how much I appreciate you guys as creators, as humans, as brothers, and how much I really appreciate you being on the show and just being open and having an open heart. I think that's where we go forward, right? We've got to change one heart at a time, and we've got to encourage people to have not just open minds, but open hearts, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I appreciate you guys for that and for that perspective. Before we go, I want you guys to tell people where they can find your work and how they can support you as artists.
Okay. I just wanted to say this last thing too, is that, just kind of wrapping up the whole thought process here, is that when it comes to fandom, Dieselpunk fandom or any other kind of fandom, all it takes is one person to ruin things, right?
Mm-hmm.
All it takes is one person to bring something into it and just come and then crash and burn the whole mood, and so as you're approaching these things, all you have to do is just not be that one person.
Mm-hmm.
Just don't be that guy, and I think that that will help improve things a lot better. My name's on the screen, Bard Constantine. You can find my work at the website bardwritesbooks.com, and that's where I've got everything. I've got the troubleshooter novels. You can jump to that link. There's also another Dieselpunk themed book called Silent Empire, which is something that was inspired from the art of Stefan, who's done a number of Dieselpunk themed art pieces, which anybody that knows Dieselpunk knows his work, and he created a series of works called Silent Empire that inspired me to actually write a story to kind of go along with those themes. So that's
very cool.
Yeah. So that kind of that falls definitely into Dieselpunk writing. And then everything else is there too. So it's bardwritesbooks.com, and you can find everything there. So
awesome.
Tony?
Hey guys, you can find me and my work and my world on Facebook at Aero Shipyard. I try to simplify it to make it easier for folks to find. Or if you're searching through Facebook, if you just search for Tony Snipes, then you'll find me there. And we're hanging out at the Portsmouth Aeroship Building Company, just trying to keep them flying while this stuff is going on, keeping them flying. But I'd love for everybody, if you could, this coming Saturday, 11 a.m. Eastern time, we're going to have, like I mentioned before, a reveal of some of my artwork that I've got that we're working on, and you'll have an opportunity to purchase prints. Half of the proceeds of those purchases are going to go to a local maker that has been making face masks for folks in the healthcare industry. So we're doing that to just try to kind of help that cause that's going on. But all of that will take place 11 a.m. Eastern time this coming Saturday on the Facebook page.
All right.
Cool.
It's awesome, man.
Awesome. And you said that you're breaking up. Shipbuilding yard.
Yes, it is Aero Shipyard. AERO Shipyard.
Was that website Shipbuilding Yard?
On Facebook. Aero Shipyard on Facebook.
I'm going to put a link here for everybody.
Awesome.
Cool.
Thank you.
Oh, it's on Facebook. Okay.
Yeah, it's on Facebook.
All right. So everybody go check out Bard's work and Tony's work. Support them. They are doing awesome stuff. Their work, and love them as human beings and fellow sojourners on this journey. Larry, you got any last words before we say goodnight?
Well, one thing has come to mind. Your post, the meme that you put up, Johnny, kind of reminded me of what Gene Roddenberry said about Star Trek. I'm an old Trekkie. And he said, and I had to look it up so I get his words right, that Star Trek was an attempt to say that humanity will reach maturity and wisdom on the day that it begins not just to tolerate, but to take a special delight in differences in ideas and differences in life forms. And when you said we're color blessed,
yes, that's what you said. Color blessed. I like that.
that I do too, Tony.
Yeah, not color blind, but color blessed. I like
there you
that.
go. I love that because that captures really what Roddenberry was saying, and Roddenberry wanted to show on the bridge of the Enterprise was that diversity, color blessed. I love it, and that one's gonna stick with me. That's good, and that's what I have to say tonight.
All right.
Well, thank you everybody for joining us, and everyone who's watching. Thank you for watching. Thank you for commenting. Share this with your friends and continue to comment. We'll continue to answer comments in text form. You will be able to download audio of this tomorrow on iTunes and Spotify. So if you want to listen in your car, it will be on the next episode of the Dieselpunk podcast. And of course, you can watch over and over. Thank you guys once again for being with us. I love you guys. And until the next time, we'll see you on the flip side.
All right. Appreciate it, John.
Thank you.
Thank you for being with us. Appreciate it. Both of you, gentlemen.
I keep hitting casting, it's not doing anything. It's stuck here.